in your time. Remember, God will never be outdone in generosity. You give him a little time, he will give you so much more. I'm Father Chris, as Bishop mentioned. I come from the United States. I am the Provincial Superior of the Marian Fathers. We are the religious community known around the world for spreading divine mercy. And I see the beautiful image that we have right here, the image in front. That is who we are. We are Divine Mercy. And when I came to Ireland this February, I was at the Divine Mercy Conference in Dublin. And it was a one-weekend event that changed my life. In fact, so much so that I wanted to come back. I had no idea that I would be elected as Provincial Superior. That did not even enter my mind. And so after I was elected as Provincial Superior, I was informed by Rome that I was to cancel all my events because I am scheduled about 3 years out on speaking engagements all over the world. I just got back from talks in Canada, going to England tomorrow, in the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Philippines, Europe, Italy, France, and so our message is divine mercy. Well, when my assistant brought to me the list of talks that I was scheduled for that I would have to cancel, on the list, as I was looking at all the places that I'm to go that I must cancel, I said, no, I'm going to keep about 15% of them. And I went down the list and I saw Ireland, and it said canceled. And I said to my assistant, unless Rome absolutely forbids me, and I said, this is the place I want to go. You know, this gospel passage today is very fitting, although it is from the daily readings. I asked Bishop Alphonsus if we could do the readings from the day and the Mass from the day, because I think this reading is so perfect for my visit here. And people might say, why is that so, Father? Well, the heart of the message of this gospel is love, okay? And that is a theme throughout the Bible. But it's the highest form. You may love rugby, or love Gaelic football, or me, American football, or you love ice cream, or I love fish and chips, whatever it might be. But not all. And in this reading, we talk about love. Now, there's one unique thing that a priest by the name of Father John Harden used to always talk about, and I've been mentioning it in my talks on the last few days. I'm going to do a different talk tonight. And suffering is what Father John Harden said is the greatest thing that brings down grace from heaven. Now, I read that at first and I said, boy, is he wrong. Suffering is not what brings down the most mercy from heaven or the most grace from heaven. It's love. And then his very next sentence in his book answered that question. It says, we only love someone to the degree we are willing to suffer for them. Now, why do I bring this up? Because this passage is about love. And if Father John Harden says love is really inseparable from suffering, if you love someone, you suffer with them. Parents, when your children are sick, many of you will say, we have in our faith a knowledge of our history. And one of the reasons I'm back in Ireland, and the reason that I have such a love for Ireland, and I think you need to teach this more, is that very fact that Ireland saved Western civilization. What is under attack today in the world by communism and Marxism and the one world order and China and all that? What is under attack? But it was Western civilization that Ireland saved. And you can go on further to say, Ireland saved the Catholic Church. We would not have the Catholic Church that we have today without Ireland. When there were no priests in nations around the world, it was Ireland that was exporting priests around the world. When it came to preserving the sacraments and things like confession, the way we know confession today was because of the Irish monks. When it came to Western culture, literature, art, writings, they were preserved by the Irish monks. The world owes a debt of gratitude to Ireland. But what has happened to Ireland? In America, you probably get a lot of negative press, but really when you go to America and you talk to the real people, you'll see most people are not in favor of this craziness that's happening in the world today. Most Americans don't want this redefining of marriage and all these other things. But do you know Ireland is the first nation in the world to publicly vote in, by the people, abortion and gay marriage? It's the very first nation in the entire world to do that. Do you know that God, you've heard me say in my talks before, that I believe there are some chosen nations today. I honestly, truly believe this. And you've heard me say that I believe Poland, in fact, Arthur, isn't one of your parents from Poland? So the spark is right there in Arthur, right? But Jesus told St. Faustina that a spark would come from Poland to prepare the world for his final coming. Now we know that spark is divine mercy, John Paul, St. Faustina, and we believe the Marian fathers who have brought divine mercy around the world. But then I believe there's another group of people that have been chosen to spread that around the world. And I believe that is the Philippines. Wherever you go in the world, there are Filipino people spreading the Catholic faith, and especially divine mercy. Do you know in Saudi Arabia it's illegal to be Christian? Yet they got all these little 4-foot Filipino women teaching people the chaplet, passing out divine mercy prayer cards. The government doesn't know what to do with them. It's illegal, but they don't want to execute these little ladies. They don't know what to do with them. They're 4-foot powerhouses. And so the Philippines, in a way, is a chosen people because they are taking the message and spreading that spark and turning it into a flame. Now, why do I bring that up? Because I am convinced there is a third chosen people. And this is probably the most important. Not where the spark comes from, that's Poland. Not who is flaming the spark, that is the Philippines. But I truly and honestly believe, and why I'm here, is I believe Ireland is chosen by God to return to her role that you have abandoned. Not you, personally, because you wouldn't be here, but as a whole, your nation. God didn't give America this mission. And what is this mission, Father Chris? What are you talking about? I believe you are chosen to be a suffering servant. What happened to the apostles? What did all of them except John do? They ran away after they had evangelized. The apostles went out and evangelized with Christ. They spread the good news, but then what happened? When times got tough, they ran away. They gave up their faith. They turned away from God. Now, God brought them back, and I believe God will bring Ireland back. But what did the apostles have to go through? The crucifixion. They had to go through the suffering, not because God wanted to punish them, but because of turning away from God and the faith. They had to go through the crucifixion before the resurrection, just like Jesus. Just like the apostles, Ireland is going through a crucifixion before your resurrection. I finished by saying when I was at the Divine Mercy Conference in February, the stories that I heard there convinced me. I have been all over the world, and I've never heard the stories that I heard from Ireland. One woman, the first woman, came to the table at that conference. She had a look on her face like she hasn't slept in 2 months. She went on to tell me that not only did her husband take his life, but 6 weeks later, her oldest son took his life. Then 1 month after that, her only other son took his life. What do you say to a lady that has been through that? Then another man came up to me and said, "Father, I lost my son. He was 21 years old. He took his life. The only thing we had left was his girlfriend. She was part of our family, and he loved her dearly. She became our daughter. Looking at her was like seeing my son. Seeing her, she brought so many memories that we didn't even know about our own son. And then as the 1-year anniversary of his suicide approached, she said on his birthday, I am going to see him." And they thought that meant she was going to the cemetery. On his birthday, she left that morning and said, "I'm going to go see him." Again, they thought that meant to the cemetery. What she did, she took her life. Then the next person that came to me at the table was in a very different way. As I was trying to sign books with both hands, it seemed, and as people were asking me to bless things and bless the people and bless the religious items and take pictures, all of a sudden this big, huge crowd in front of my table broke through 2 arms holding this little baby boy. And this little baby boy had a big oxygen tube stuck in his nose. And I stopped everything. I stopped signing books. I stopped taking pictures. And I just was mesmerized by this little boy. And these 2 arms passed him to me. And I just held him, and he's looking up at me, and he's going like this on my face. And the grandma who had him went on to tell me his name is Kai. And Kai has a very rare blood disease. And that his lungs are not formed properly. He's on oxygen. And he went on to tell me that his father abandoned him. And then she went on to tell me his mother died while giving him birth. She gave birth to twins, him and his little twin brother. Then she went on to tell me that his twin brother died at 6 weeks old. At that point, I could not bear anymore. And I looked up at God and I said, "God, what is happening in Ireland?" And it became very clear that you're sharing the cross of Christ. I believe Ireland is a chosen people. Yes, it may seem dark falling away from your faith. It may seem dark when your children or your grandchildren are not going to Mass. But at 5:30 tonight, we're going to talk and give hope. The hope of this little boy named Kai. The little baby that I met All of a sudden, a voice, we had a big crowd, very back, his grandmother brought him. In the middle of my talk, I ran out and brought him up. God's not going to forget him. God's not going to abandon him. We're going to show praise be to God, and may God.
We pray for Father Chris and for all of the Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception in their great work of spreading knowledge and love of the one who is Divine Mercy. So we pray for a flourishing of Father Chris's work. Lord, in your mercy.